Well, today I'm delighted to welcome artist, educator, friend, and Slow Flowers member Françoise Weeks back to the Slow Flowers show as our guest. Françoise is a past guest of the podcast, and I've had the opportunity to interview her as well as teach at several in person and online workshops together. Françoise Weeks was born in Belgium, and she has infused her work with a quintessential European reverence for flowers and nature. Combined with creativity and mechanical ingenuity, Françoise has crystallized her signature style of textural, woodlands, and botanical haute couture pieces, garnering a global following of students. Françoise's studio is located in Portland, Oregon. That's where we'll hear from her. And her innovation and love of teaching have brought her to classrooms around the globe and here at home in the US. Her dynamic work has been published in Fusion Flowers, Modern Wedding Flowers, Huffington Post, Flutter, and Milieu, among other places. Françoise's generosity of knowledge and perspective in the use of floral materials, structures, and mechanics, in addition to the business of being a florist, unite to create rigorous and exciting learning opportunities for her students. She encourages people to explore all that nature has to offer. I invited Françoise to join me in the virtual studio today to talk about her newest online course, Foraged Design, which recently launched. The curriculum covers decor for the home, events, and everything in between. The inventive projects include eggplant, pear, and artichoke arrangements, a vase arrangement, 4 botanical napkin rings, a wine bottle with a floral ribbon, and a framed woodland-inspired wallscape. I'll share the link for you to find all of Françoise's online offerings in our show notes for episode 590 at slowflowerspodcast.com when the podcast version of this interview airs next week. Let's jump right in and first watch the short video trailer for Foraged Design, and then I'll follow that with my conversation with Françoise as we discuss Foraged Design, her philosophy, and her favorite materials and techniques during our interview. And I'll share our sponsor thank yous after the interview.
My name is Françoise Weeks, and I'm a European floral designer.
The idea was to come up with projects that people easily could do in their home for their own enjoyment or when you organize a dinner party.
It's really about paying attention and seeing what's available right in your neighborhood. The very first time that I did this, I was very surprised to see what I found out. In this series, I'm going to teach you how to create fruit and vegetable arrangements, napkin decorations, unique vase arrangements, wine bottle decorations, and a 3D landscape arrangement in a frame. I look forward to seeing you in my new course. Voilà.
So cute. Everything she does and says just makes me want to give her a big hug. Okay, let's jump right in, and I will bring you our Q&A, and we'll wrap up at the end with some thank yous. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Slow Flower Show with Deborah Prinzing. I have a very special return guest today, our good friend, Françoise Weeks. Hi, Françoise.
Hi, Deborah. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. This is like a fun holiday treat to spend time with you. You're in your Portland studio surrounded by all kinds of woodland finds, which I'm assuming most were foraged or gathered on your journeys.
Yeah, a lot of them. I'm really lucky here at the Portland Flower Market. There are 2 or 3 local vendors who have permits to go forage in the woods here in Oregon or in southern Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have gotten a lot of really cool pieces of wood from them and also all kinds of very, very cool textures on top of what I forage at a friend's gardens.
So these permits come from like the Department of Forestry or the land.
I guess.
Yeah, the state.
Mm-hmm.
And isn't it cool that like you're so well known about what your preferences are that they have kind of a standing order to find the groovy stuff for Françoise?
Well, it's actually really funny. There is this one fellow, his name is Sandy, and he must be in his mid-80s. And he has been at the market for a really long time. And he totally gets what I like. And so I'll ask him, can you get me some curly bark, or can you get me some fungi, or whatever? And then the next week, he comes with a flat just full of it. It's fantastic.
Boxes of treasures, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't always go out in the woods. I know you like to do that, but you can't always, be hiking a mountain to find what you like to design with.
Yeah, I don't, to be real honest with you, and I hike quite a bit, I typically don't pick up things when I'm hiking. I observe, I look, I'm inspired by what I see. But I might pick up some lichen that's on the path or something like that.
Right. But it sounds like you're trying to be respectful of the whatever. Do not take away, even when you go to the beach or the woods, don't take away what you could just leave for the natural evolution of the place.
Right. I think that, because foraging is so incredibly popular now, I don't think that that's okay.
Yeah.
I think that anything that's on the path is up for grabs.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of how I look at it. Or like at the beach, at Cape Mears, at the Oregon coast, there is so much driftwood there. And I do go there and pick up some pieces of driftwood, but it's just a fraction of what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's so interesting because your new course, which is what prompted me to ask you if you would record an interview with me, it's just launched and it's called Foraged Design, correct?
Yeah. Correct.
And I made me wonder, like, how do you define foraging? Because it's sort of it's place specific. You could forage in different ways, as you were saying, at the beach or in the mountains or in your own garden, or with professionals who have permits. So, at all of the above, or do you kind of have a personal definition of foraging?
So for me, foraging is whatever I find, like you mentioned, whether it's in my garden or in friends' gardens. I'm very, very lucky to be friends with quite a few people who are, I can call them plant nerds.
Plant nerds, yeah. More than you mean?
The foliage that's so interesting, or the color of the branches, or interesting bark, you just name it.
Yeah. Well, back to your idea of being an observer, what catches your eye when you're out in nature.
Yeah, exactly. And because my work has always been so incredibly inspired by nature, it just really appeals to me to use materials that are in gardens, or in that weren't grown in huge quantities by farmers. I am the first one to say, though, that when I did weddings, and I did a ton of weddings for 17 years, that I didn't really harvest from my garden. I live on a small city lot, and it was my garden. I wasn't going to pick all kinds of things for clients. But since I don't do weddings anymore, and I basically do photo shoots and I teach, so it's always small quantities that I need. I do pick a lot from my garden, and and I do go to friends'
and
gardens.
You invite yourself to your friends. I was thinking about that, Françoise. It's like your focus as a designer and an artist has changed. So you're not having to do multiples of identical centerpieces. Everything is one of a kind with you. And that's why you're able to be so much more responsive to one branch or one piece of bark. You couldn't do that for a wedding, although I'm sure you put your spin on it.
I did. I actually did. I always would tell brides I am incapable of doing the same centerpiece 20 times over. They're all going to be a little bit different.
No matchy. Yeah. Well, thank goodness that, that you had clients who loved your aesthetic and thought that was, I mean, that's a bonus to get 20 one of a kind centerpieces.
Yeah.
Well, you have been teaching these online courses more than I thought. I mean, I thought you'd done one or two, and when I went and looked at your website, I saw that you've had like 7 or 8 of these. Can you talk a little bit about how this opportunity to teach online has really allowed you to reach more people, and maybe reach more people because the prices are more affordable than having to travel to take a workshop with you?
Right. So this whole project came about 5 years ago. And so I'm 70 years old. And at the time when I was in my mid 60s or earlier 60s, several people would say to me, you know, Françoise, what if you can't travel? Because I make a living by teaching when I travel. And you really should have plan B. And as a total introvert, the idea of doing online classes was totally out of the question. So it took me 2 years to have the courage to do it. And I found an incredible videographer. And so we launched on this adventure. The first one we did was on Woodland design. And then it kind of grew, and we did botanical wearables and wedding wearables and all that kind of stuff. And to be real honest with you, I am so grateful that I did have the courage to make that huge step 5 years ago, because the sales of the videos literally saved my business during COVID. Of course, all my work disappeared. And I never ever thought that I wouldn't be able to travel.
Right. Oh my gosh.
How
many in-person travel related workshops were canceled in 2020? Like every single thing on your calendar, right?
Yeah, about 15.
Wow.
I traveled pre-COVID. I was traveling between 15 to 20 times. And so the last one, you and I were there
at Trend Summit in Vancouver.
The Trend Summit in Vancouver, and that was the last one.
Wait, can I just stop for a second? That was I came home on March 15th to Seattle by car. Did you fly home from Vancouver?
I did.
Was it weird?
It was super stressful. It was so stressful.
I'm sure.
I think it was like the last day that we could get out of the country.
Yes, because the border closed 2 days after I came home. I think you stayed for Gregor's workshop.
Right.
And then you all had to like race out of the country. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine, Françoise? You would have been like grounded in Vancouver. Not a bad place to be grounded, but still, that was a crazy time. Well, okay, so you came back from Vancouver and started having all these events canceled. At the time, did you already have some online courses?
Yeah, at the time we had 2 online courses. And then, of course, my videographer lost all his work too. So during COVID, we actually chose to take the risk to do some more videos. And Mark and Cody would come here to the studio, and they would be masked. And we got super, super lucky. Nobody got sick.
Okay, so you guys just filmed in your studio, and what, you have a camera person and a sound person, basically?
So Mark has a lot of incredible equipment, and he has Cody collaborates with him. And then we basically, for 2 days, and after we're done filming, Teresa, my photographer, comes in and she takes pictures. And so it's all part of the, this whole video thing, and for marketing purposes. And so I started to teach again in person last year in April, in August, and I noticed from that first workshop that the demographic had changed. It was mostly professionals who came to the workshops. They're not always even. Sometimes there were people who were not in the industry but just wanted to learn. And all of a sudden it changed.
Mm.
It was mostly people who were interested in learning something different and new, and actually very few people who were in the industry who were attending. And it was like that, workshop after workshop after workshop. So I mentioned it to Mark, and Mark said, well, the next time we do a video, maybe we should gear it more to what people can do at home and what they can get from their gardens, and what they can, how to learn to look in their garden besides the beautiful blooms that they have. And that's how the whole project kind of came about.
The Foraged Design course that you just launched. That's so interesting. I wonder, did you notice with this shift in people taking your workshops that we heard so much about the need to connect with nature during COVID? Like somehow people, their busy lives slowed down and they were forced to do that. Do you think that was related to what you were seeing?
I have no idea. It was just so striking to me. And the other thing that really struck me too, pre-COVID, the age range was pretty wide for people who attended. Not that I would ask for people's age, but I mean, it's pretty obvious, if somebody's in their 20s or in their 50s. And post-COVID, I've had a lot of people who've come who are in their 50s and 60s. The oldest student I had was 87 years old.
Never stop learning, right? I love it.
I mean, it's really interesting and cool. And so, because a lot of the people who take the workshop, the workshops don't have access to flower markets. That's why I just wanted to share how much they can actually get from their garden or friends' gardens, or if they have a friend who has a woodland property or whatever, how much you can actually, how many treasures you can find there, and then make beautiful things without having to buy a lot of flowers.
Right. So the projects in the course, there's certain, 10 up to 10 projects that are taught through several modules. And how did you kind of use things that you had previously designed and reimagine them for the non-professional, or were they kind of easy to do?
So I never really, so there's one on vegetables, using vegetables as containers. I did an eggplant, an artichoke, and a pear. And when I did weddings, it's actually something that I did I didn't do it a lot, but I did it many, many times. People who had bistro tables, they were like the perfect small arrangement for bistro tables, and people loved them. And it was kind of a conversation thing,
Right.
Oh, you used an artichoke, whatever.
It's brilliant.
So I brought that up, and Mark liked that idea. A few years ago, I started to, just for fun, to see how I could decorate wine bottles. And I thought that would be a really fun thing to show. So people, especially at this time of the year, a lot of people give wine as a gift, how you can decorate it and make it a little more special already. And then the one on, let's see. Oh, and then another one that I came up with was to do napkin decorations, napkin holder decorations. Just very small projects. You hardly need any product. Makes a table setting really special, instead of just folding a napkin.
And you've shared some of these photos with me, so we'll share them both when this replays and also on the show notes at slowflowerspodcast.com. But to me, you're like the arts and crafts era artist, where you embellish every surface, like every utilitarian object is potentially something to be flowered or to be enhanced with a three-dimensional tactile design, because that's how you see the world. And I love that.
Yeah, I made a little, just because it's of the season, I made a little napkin holder here.
Oh, lovely.
So, I mean, super simple, You just glue a few leaves. I used a 1 inch aluminum wire from Oasis, but you can, if you don't have that, you can just use 18 gauge wire and connect the wire, and then you bend it, and then you cover it with leaves, and then you glue a few goodies on
Oh
it.
my goodness. And it's sort of like a cuff in that it can be tightened around a thicker or thinner. I love it. And so let's look at that more closely. What do you have on there that you shared? It's so cute. You've got some pods and some flower. Hold that up again.
This one here.
Acorns, holly, cedar.
Yeah.
What's the berry? Is that from an Andina?
It's I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure. I got it at the flower market from a local grower.
And what are the
I kind of got into my latest obsession is wood shavings. I have a friend whose husband does woodwork, and I get all the wood shavings, and I just love.
Oh, they're like little tendrils. Oh, how creative! Oh, I love it. Did you just use salal leaves to cover the metal?
Yeah, but you can use any. It's like if you have a camellia shrub, or you have a rhododendron, or whatever is evergreen.
Broadleaf evergreen.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And then those, what do you tell people? Like they'll last for a week, probably, won't they? In most cases.
So something like this, I actually made it last week Friday.
Wow.
And I haven't touched it.
Wow.
So if you don't use the flowers, it's like in the videos, I have 4 different ideas on how to do the napkin holders. A couple of them are in water tubes. So you cover the water tube with a leaf or with paper thin bark or something like that. Or there's one where I used a Cymbidium orchid. Well, Cymbidium orchids do fine out of water for 2 or 3 days.
Wow. Yeah.
So you can totally make these little napkin holders, 2 or 3 days before your party.
Right. Or if you're really ambitious and you're having several dinner parties back to back, you've got your table decor for the whole week. What's your you do a couple centerpieces or arrangements in the course. Are they all in vegetables, or are there some in vessels?
Yeah. So the ones in the vegetables, the centerpieces are the vegetable ones.
Okay.
So those are the only centerpiece ones. And then the 4th one that I make, that I elaborate upon, is the framed, the little wood landscapes.
Yes.
So this is something that I started to do, and I used to use a different way of going about it when I started about 5 years ago. But I found these wooden frames at an art supply place in the neighborhood. Or you can buy them online, and they're just perfect, just a plain wooden frame with a backing. So I hot glue moss on it, and then I hot glue all these textures. And this is one that I made a month ago.
Oh, good. I want to see it. So this is, again, the frame is generally easy to find at a craft store. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is a little bit bigger than the one that I made.
Oh my goodness. Oh, Françoise, it's so dimensional. It's almost like a diorama.
So for me, these lines are all about making a little landscape on the surface.
Yes.
So like here, here, this is a little fern that's in a 2-inch pot. And so you water it once a week or once every 3 days, whatever. I've used little 2-inch Phalaenopsis orchids, and they'll last in the frame like for 3 or 4 weeks. And then you can take them out, and but all the rest here, in this one, of course,
they're fine, like on a covered porch or something, where they're getting a little bit of moisture, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then if you want to, I have done nothing to this except watering the fern a little bit. You can spritz the succulents and the tillandsia once a
Yeah.
week, once every 2 weeks.
But they're just glued with a little bit of cold
Hot,
glue. Is that correct?
hot glue or cold glue.
Okay.
I actually use hot glue for the succulents too now. You
Yeah.
know, there was such a shortage of cold glue for a year. Uh, it was kind of a problem for what I do.
Yeah, I
And
heard that a
so,
lot of people were having
yeah.
panicking about what to do about no glue.
And so I switched for a lot of things with hot glue, and you know, of course, all the inert pieces, you know, like the lichens and all that stuff is totally fine. And then I tried it on succulents, and they're fine too.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
How heavy is that though? That's a pretty substantial
yeah.
piece.
It's not very heavy. It's, you know, the frame is not heavy. This mushroom here that I harvested in Wisconsin when I was teaching there, that's a little heavy. But for the rest, it's really not all that heavy.
Okay. Wow. So that's a little
Uh,
larger than the one in the course, but
yeah,
it's the idea is the
very
same.
visible.
You
Yeah,
have a frame and then you create a landscape in it. And I think you're really it's giving people permission to be artists when they probably don't consider themselves artists, right? Are you finding
yeah.
that?
It's amazing what you can create with these very simple elements and how beautiful it is, and without spending a lot of money either.
Yeah. Right. Right. Because most of these things are, if somebody is going to gather from the garden, they're going to be, their heads will be down. They're going to be looking on the ground for what has dropped off of trees. And
Right.
you're one of those
Yeah,
people who likes it when there's a storm, I think.
yeah, I'm one of them. That's when I go walk in the neighborhood with a bag, because I've collected so many lichen-covered branches, mossy bits, and then of course in the fall I've actually learned to remember where the oak trees are and where the ginkgo trees are and where the gum trees are, and I go collect on the street.
And
You
you get
know,
the pods.
yeah. And another thing that I really love to use are mushrooms.
Hmm.
And so I go to the grocery store and I buy mushrooms and I bring them home and I put them on a paper towel on my bench. These are bigger mushrooms, so it takes about 10 days for them to dehydrate. Small ones, it's like 2 days. But they add such a fun element to any design.
So that is what kind of mushroom is that? Like just something you found in the Japanese vegetable section?
I go New Seasons
Mm,
here in Portland. They sell these packages of 3 different kinds of mushrooms.
I've
They're
seen
not
that.
labeled, therefore I don't know what the name
Yeah.
is of this
I don't know my
mushroom.
mushrooms either, but I think like that is such a classical fairy tale mushroom that you'd see in a children's storybook with
Right.
the cat.
And of
It's
course, they shrink a lot, you know, just like when you cook mushrooms, they shrink a lot. And so they are a lot smaller when they're dried than when they're fresh. And then I've observed over the years, you know, they look fine. I can, you know, if I deconstruct an arrangement, I put them back in a box and I reuse it. And after about 4 to 6 months, they disintegrate.
okay. Okay.
They
You've got
like really fall apart.
you've got the money, your money's worth. How do they
Yeah.
that you can hot glue those too then?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fabulous.
So
It, it's
fabulous.
it's really it's really about seeing things that, I mean, they've always been there, but to pay attention to them. You know, it's like this here, this, I mean, how cool of a pod is this? You know, this honey locust. So I know of 3 trees in the neighborhood that I go to in the fall to collect these. And then I collect a lot of them, so I have enough for, you know, several months. But, you know, or like this, I got this in the garden of a friend. It's a meta sequoia, you
Oh
know,
my
this
goodness.
huge tree, and it has these most beautiful little cones, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And so it's really about seeing,
Yeah.
observing.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because there's such a backlash now against single-use plastics, but I think that extends to, the things that you see at at craft stores where everything is like you could buy faux cones or you could buy faux
Oh,
mushrooms, and they're all just made out of plastic or
yeah.
some kind of synthetic. And yes, they probably last forever and they don't disintegrate in 5 or 6 months. But what you're doing is celebrating all these wonderful gifts from nature
Oh,
as art supplies. And when you said deconstruct, it made me realize, oh, none of this is throwaway. You
yeah.
repurpose things.
Oh, yeah. So it's like when I do a class, I always do samples. And after the class, I take it apart and I reuse. I mean, there is no reason to pitch
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, or if I do something headpieces or whatever for a photo shoot, if I use flowers in it, of course, those won't last, but I use very, very few flowers. I adore flowers, but I love to design with texture.
Yeah.
And so I reuse uh, that stuff over and over and over and over again.
Yeah. And also, it allows you to do things in the winter when there are fewer blooms. And
Yeah,
so you're not you're not sitting around waiting for the hellebores to finally come out. And when they
right.
do, you use them.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And that's when, you know, like in a film, I'll put them in a little water tube, you know, when they're mature enough that they will hold for, you know, once the seed pod starts forming,
mhm,
that's when you
mhm,
really should cut them.
mhm.
And they will last in a water tube for quite a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And, you know, or the muscari or the snowdrops or any of them,
You're
it's just so much fun.
you're mentioning all those little woodland ephemera that that you're drawn to. Um, can you talk a little bit about this course and how people work their way through it? If you sign up, how many weeks does it take to finish the course, or how do you have it structured?
So I think, you know, I don't know exactly the length of the video. I think it might be close to 2 hours, an hour and a half, or something like that. So when you sign up, if you see it on Instagram or whatever on my website, you can sign up to get a free small video, and then if you want to purchase it, you have the information for a lifetime. It never expires. And then you can rewatch it if you want to. You can just watch the first lesson if you want to. I mean, whatever. So it's super flexible. I'm always happy to answer questions. So if there's something that you don't, you have questions about, you don't really understand or whatever, just shoot me an email. And I'm always happy to help out. And remember also, this is because a lot of the people who purchase the videos do not live in Pacific Northwest. So what I use, it's what available here, plus some goodies that people have sent me from where they live. I've been super lucky that way.
Oh my
But
goodness.
just look at what's available where you live. And this is something that I have enjoyed so much with all the traveling I've done, because no matter where I go teach, the materials are always different. The flowers typically are similar, because there are some differences, but not huge differences. But what is different are the textures that are available.
Mm, mhm.
And so just look around and see what you have in your garden, or what you can find wherever in your friend's garden, woods, or whatever, and play with it. It's
Yeah.
really there's no right or wrong.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. What Mother Nature offers us is so beautiful. You just can't go wrong.
Well, I find that I went into the course and I did download or watch the free tutorial that is sort of a preview, and that was the wine bottle workshop, or the wine bottle
Oh,
decor.
yeah.
There's something about watching you teach that's very meditative and very peaceful because you don't rush. And you look at I was so intrigued by how you looked at every single petal even, or little tiny cone or little tiny sprig of something, and made an intentional decision about adding it to that wrap on the wine bottle, and the end result is gorgeous. But it wasn't a rushed project. It was something that you maybe you sipped the glass of wine while you're decorating the wine bottle. Like it was a time to celebrate all the ingredients. And I feel like that's a message that comes across in your teaching as well. This is not a production line. This is not
It's not.
mass produced.
And it's so interesting because I can't even begin to tell you how many people have told me or asked me, so you must get really fast at this. And I go, I'm never fast because I never know what the end result is going to be. So it's basically all the ingredients that I have on the bench or behind me that dictate what the end result will be. And so there's a lot of looking around and, would this work? Oh, no, this doesn't work. Maybe that work, or whatever. And so, of course, when I did weddings and I did Woodlands for weddings and I had 20 centerpieces to make, I could not spend 3 hours on making a centerpiece.
Well, it is a meditative process, learning from you. And I think the videos are the next best thing to being in person. And I love the fact that people can go back, refer to the projects, and dip in and dip out depending on what project they need to create for their tabletop or for their own wearables. It's really wonderful.
That's the beauty of doing online teaching, is that you can reach so many people in so many different areas.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
You just need to go on to the bench behind you and pull something and put it on the dining table, and it'll look like a magnificent centerpiece.
Yeah, any piece of wood with some lichen and moss on it, it's just so beautiful.
I love it. I know. Yeah. I mean, Mother Nature is the best artist, and you're tapping into Mother Nature with everything that you're doing. And I really love your style. And I think that your style has influenced thousands and tens of thousands of florists to change their definition of what is a design ingredient. It's not just flowers. It's the full spectrum of what you can find in nature.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, we're going to share the information for registration for Foraged Design. And, you gave me a little trailer video, so we'll share that as well. And then hopefully people who are interested in this can check it out, because the course just launched, so you haven't missed anything. It's a perpetual course, right? You can sign up anytime, as well as all your other courses.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for inviting me to be on the podcast and to share the information
you bet.
with your listeners. I really, really appreciate it.
You bet, Françoise. And I feel like we're right in this kind of period of time where people might have a week off between, Christmas and New Year's, or during the New Year's break. And I would encourage everyone to just work with what you have and get experimental. And if you post anything, tag Françoise so she can see it.
Yeah, I would love to see it.
All right, we'll call it the Foraged Design Challenge.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, great. Happy New Year. I know I'll see you in the new year. And thank you so much for sharing your inspiration with us today. It's a good time of year to not feel like you can't make beauty with what you have, even though it's raining out or snowing out.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Deborah. So appreciated.
Thanks, Françoise. We'll talk soon. Yeah. Oh, that was fun. She just puts a big smile on my face. Thanks for joining us today. I want to add a few more details courtesy of Françoise. There will be an end-of-year sale for her Foraged Design course. I don't have the dates, but it's probably going to be the last 3 days of 2022. You need to be subscribed to her newsletter or her courses to get that information. I'll put that link in our show notes for the podcast. But it's https:// learn.francoiseweeks.com/foraged-design-opt-in. I don't know if that's going to help you or not. If you're following Françoise on Instagram, you'll also catch details at Françoise Weeks. And she has a menu in her profile, which will include links to the course. And an update about Françoise's forthcoming book. A lot of people have been asking about this, The Wonder of Woodlands. It will be out in spring of 2024, and Françoise shared this with me to tell you all about today. It will show people how they can gather nature's treasures to create their own artful arrangements. The book is divided into chapters, each showcasing a common building block in my arrangements and suggesting a simple project. Since bark, logs, and branches form the background of my designs, I begin there. That's followed by chapters on moss, mushrooms, acorns, seed pods, lichens, and ferns. Françoise's primary goal is to teach readers to see the artistry contained in any natural landscape. Like her, she wants people to see with a new pair of eyes. This all really came across today in our interview. Before I go, I also want to thank our sponsors who bring this show to you. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florist shops and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Grow Flowers. Farm Grow Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgrowflowers.com. Thank you to Details Flowers Software, a platform specifically designed to help florists and designers do more and earn more. With an elegant and easy-to-use system, Details improves profitability, productivity, and organization for floral businesses of all shapes and sizes. Grow your bottom line through professional proposals and confident pricing with their all-in-one platform. All friends of the Slow Flowers Show will receive a 7-day free trial of Details Flowers software. You can learn more at detailsflowers.com. Thank you to Cal Flowers, the leading floral trade association in California, providing valuable transportation and other benefits to flower growers and the entire floral supply chain in California and 48 other states. The association is a leader in bringing fresh cut flowers to the U.S. market and in promoting the benefits of flowers to new generations of American consumers. Learn more at cafgs.org. And thank you to Store It Cold, creators of the revolutionary CoolBot, a popular solution for flower farmers, studio florists, and farmer florists. Save thousands when you build your own walk-in cooler with the CoolBot system and an air conditioner. If you don't have time to build your own, they also have turnkey units available. Learn more at storeitcold.com. The Slow Flowers Show is a member-supported endeavor, and I value our loyal members and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show and our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowersociety.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of the Slow Flowers Show and the Slow Flowers podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. And next week, we will share our Year in Review 2022 special episode. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next week.